East Asia Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Otelli Edwards. Tonight's top stories from East Asia. China again demands Japan's Prime Minister retract her Taiwan remarks as a senior envoy meets Chinese officials to defuse the crisis. Meantime, Tokyo's urging citizens in China to stay alert. The souring of diplomatic ties hitting business sentiment, accelerating an equity market sell-off in Tokyo. The Chinese ships are accused of jamming communications as Filipino forces in a disputed South China Sea push through with a resupply mission to a territorial outpost. And South Korea says it has no hostile intent towards the North, pledging to rebuild trust on the peninsula in the face of tensions over a new pact with the U.S. Could the sound of dogs barking deter bears from wandering into rural Japanese towns? Well, one village in the Japanese Alps is trialing drone-mounted speakers to help keep visitors and inhabitants safe. And baby shark maker Pinkfong makes a splashy sole debut. Shares surge more than 60%. China has lodged strong objections with Japan over remarks on Taiwan made by Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. It was directly conveyed to Japan's foreign envoy at a meeting in Beijing. Well, the Japanese leader had stated more than a week ago that a Chinese move against Taiwan could prompt a military deployment of its own forces, angering Beijing. Now, foreign envoy Masaaki Kanai met with his Chinese counterpart, Liu Jinsong, in Beijing today in a bid to cool tensions. He reportedly left the Chinese Foreign Ministry building in Beijing earlier this afternoon without responding to media questions. Beijing, responding to a question on safety of Japanese citizens, said it will continue to protect the safety of foreigners in China. That assurance came after Japan reminded its citizens in China to stay alert, avoid large crowds, and take extra care when with children. Tokyo says the latest advisory is a renewed call for safety measures as sentiment in China has shifted following strained ties.
今般の注意喚起ですが、最近の日中関係をめぐる現地での報道等の状況を踏まえて、在中国高官から改めて、在留邦人に対して十分な安全対策を呼びかけたものであります。
Now, the latest diplomatic feud has triggered a series of moves from Beijing. It earlier urged Chinese citizens to avoid traveling to Japan and indicated that its premier will not meet Ms. Takaichi at the G20 summit in South Africa. Japan says no decisions have been made about bilateral meetings at the summit, but added that Tokyo remains open to various dialogues with Beijing. For more, CNA's Deborah Wong joins us live from Shenzhen. Deborah, this diplomatic row continues to deepen. How has China responded to the latest?
So we are seeing a tit-for-tat situation regarding the travel advisories. And for the Chinese side, the response to Japan's latest update is that China has always protected the safety of Japanese nationals, or foreign nationals, in fact, in the country in accordance with the law. So take note that this is actually a similar statement that they have, said before regarding accusations of growing nationalism and violence against Japanese nationals living in China. And these accusations came about previously following some attacks in Suzhou and Shenzhen last year against Japanese nationals. And back then, Beijing coming up to say that these incidents were isolated, they'll be dealt with according with the law, and they also urge Japan not to politicize these incidents. Now, Japanese envoy was in Beijing earlier, to quell the tensions, but he left shortly after without taking any questions from the media. So we do not know, further details as to what happened during their meeting, but we understand from Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry that they have once again used that platform to object at the Prime Minister's remarks on Taiwan. Have a listen.
在磋商中，中方就日本首相高市早苗涉华错误言论再次向日方提出严正交涉。 指出高市的谬论严重违反国际法和国际关系基本准则，严重破坏战后国际秩序，严重违背一个中国原则和中日4个政治文件精神，从根本上损害中日关系政治基础，性质和影响极其恶劣，激起中国人民的公愤和谴责。
So this entire episode emerged because, China views Taiwan as a red line, and, China sees Takaichi's remarks and refusal to retract her statement as crossing that line. To China, it really is a historical reminder of Japanese occupation during World War II, where China suffered very heavy losses. So Takaichi is also a known China hawk, and, before taking office, she was a regular visitor to a war shrine, where Japan usually honors its war dead. Now, she's not visited since taking office, but it's worthy to note that China views that shrine as provocation.
And also, Ms. Takaichi, she has not retracted those remarks. Have we seen any sort of tangible impact so far?
Well, so far we do know that at least 2 popular Japanese movies, they were supposed to be released in China, but the release has been postponed. State media, CCTV, saying that film distributors have decided not to release those movies currently because they've reviewed audience sentiment and found that there's no market for it presently. China, again, has also urged citizens to avoid traveling to Japan. They've also gotten students to reconsider studying in Japan. It's worthy to note that this could cause a major economic impact on Japan's tourism economy, given that Chinese travelers to Japan make up one of the largest foreign travelers in the country. And analysts saying, in fact, that departure data show that about 500,000 flight tickets were cancelled over the weekend to Japan. And this has also impacted some sort of personnel exchanges on the ground. We've noticed that the annual Beijing Tokyo Forum, which was supposed to be run over the past weekend, was also postponed. Now, the tensions, aside from China, have also caused some sort of unease in Japan, seeing reports of several Japanese business leaders, engaging the Prime Minister, telling her to perhaps restart constructive dialogue with Japan to avoid any further economic fallout. I think all eyes are also on whether or not this will eventually impact Chinese rare earth exports to Japan, or even Chinese imports of Japanese seafood and agricultural products, because these have been used as levers in other geopolitical scenarios before, and it could very well be used in this situation also.
Thanks, Deborah, for following this story. CNA's Deborah Wong reporting to us live from Shenzhen. Well, for centuries, China and Japan have influenced each other's language, culinary traditions, and economic development. But tensions between them also go way back. Trade picked up from the late 19th century, but so did political friction. The first Sino-Japanese War broke out in 1894. Japan then won decisively and annexed parts of China, including Taiwan. Well, from the 1930s through World War II, Japan's imperial army launched brutal campaigns in China, including the infamous mass killing of civilians in Nanjing. Well, that dark chapter would cast a long shadow over relations. Now, the U.S. helped Japan to rebuild after World War II ended, and by the 1980s, it was the world's second largest economy. China opened up only in the late 70s, would go on to dethrone Japan as Asia's top economy in 2010. But tensions remain between the superpowers. Both lay claim to a group of islands in the East China Sea, known as Senkaku in Japan and Diaoyu in China. The uninhabited islands came under Japan's control in 1895 during the First Sino-Japanese War. China's claim came in 1971 after a UN survey suggested potential oil and gas reserves in the area. But China has been sending vessels around the disputed territory almost daily since 2012, when Japan moved some of the islands from private to state ownership. The number of vessels entering the zone hitting a record high last year, with Beijing regularly reinforcing its claims.
钓鱼岛及其附属岛屿是中国固有领土，中国海警船在中国领海巡航执法，正当合法，天经地义。
Now, another source of concern for Tokyo is China's growing military clout. President Xi Jinping has overseen a doubling of defense spending since taking office in 2013. Japan now sees China as its greatest strategic challenge. It's pushing defense spending to 2% of gross domestic product from just over 1%. China has accused Japan of not learning the lessons of history and returning to militarism. And then there is Taiwan, at the heart of their latest spat. Japan's worries of an attack on the island stem from its proximity and economic ties. A Chinese blockade on Taiwan could choke key shipping lanes and semiconductor supplies, key to Japan's tech and auto sectors. China is furious at a possible Japanese intervention because it insists that reunification with Taiwan is a domestic issue, and also because Japan's involvement will likely draw the United States into the conflict, since the two have a mutual defense treaty. Coming up later, we'll be joined by Julio Pugliese, director of the EU Asia project at the European University Institute. We'll find out if this latest spat between Beijing and Tokyo is really something new or just history repeating itself. Well, turning to the South China Sea, where Chinese ships have reportedly jammed communications as Filipino forces carried out a resupply mission to a long-disputed shoal. Filipino officials say that despite the signal blackout and presence of Chinese vessels nearby, the country's military has successfully delivered supplies and a fresh batch of Navy personnel to its outpost aboard the BRP Sierra Madre ship. Manila grounded the vessel at the Second Thomas Shoal in 1999 to stake its claim to the shoal and surrounding areas. The Philippines add that such was part of the Chinese Coast Guard's regular security practices. They believe that the move may have been aimed at blocking drone surveillance by the U.S. and other foreign forces. The interference made it harder for Filipino troops to communicate, but it did not stop the mission. China has long claimed the fishing atoll and the entire South China Sea, with repeated demands for the Philippines to pull out of the shoal. Confrontations eased after Beijing and Manila signed a temporary non-aggression arrangement last year. Since then, the Philippines has carried out similar missions without incident, but China has deployed more Coast Guard and suspected militia ships to the closely guarded shoal. South Korea says it has no hostile intent toward the north and will keep working to ease tensions to restore confidence in the peninsula. The comments come after Pyongyang accused its neighbor of, quote, formalizing a confrontational policy with the U.S. A state media, KCNA, slammed both Washington and Seoul, saying the two had revealed their true colors by reaffirming their commitment to the North's denuclearization. It adds that the agreement paves the way for Seoul to arm itself with nuclear weapons, prompting Pyongyang to warn it will take appropriate countermeasures. Washington and Seoul announced a joint fact sheet last week as they reached an agreement on trade and security. The deal includes U.S. approval for the South to build nuclear-powered submarines and for the two countries to work closely to find what they call avenues to source fuel. The Prime Minister of Tuvalu hailing the nation's relationship with Taiwan during a visit to Taipei. The trip comes during heightened geopolitical competition in the Pacific between China and the U.S.
Tuvalu indeed treasures its special relationship with Taiwan, a relationship that is built on shared democratic values, mutual trust, and unwavering cooperation.
The tiny Pacific island says it will sign its first treaty with Taiwan during the visit as part of a broader diplomatic push for formal recognition of its perpetual statehood. Taiwanese President William Lai adding that the visit symbolizes their strong friendship and high regard for diplomatic relations. Tuvalu has a population of just 11,000 scattered across 9 low-lying atolls. Experts predict that half of its main town will be submerged by rising tides by 2050. So the island nation is heavily reliant on donor partners, such as Taiwan, to fortify its coast. The Pacific nation is just one of just 12 countries to maintain formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan. That number has been dwindling in recent times as Beijing doubles down on efforts to win over Taipei's remaining allies. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take control of the island. Time now for a break, but coming up on East Asia tonight, Beijing accelerates consolidation in rural banks as local government debt and a property slump strain the system. A big drop from Bitcoin. The world's top crypto token has taken a steep fall, erasing all of its gains for the year. We'll have more on this when we return.
With the uncertainties of the financial world, where does our economy truly stand? Keep up to date with the latest market trends and get the in-depth analysis that you need to understand the forces driving the global economies. Kickstart your day with an informed view of the business world. Asia Business on Asia First, weekdays on CNA. Brought to you by UOB.
"特别当一些客人进入到家里的时候，我们会拿这个咖啡作为一个很高级的一个饮料去款待他。
The coffee market is really a good proxy to understand the changes of the Chinese economy and Chinese society.
我们会把这个行业卷起来。
From instant brews to cafe culture, tracing coffee's rise in China. Wednesday on CNA.
The world is heating up and nature's defences are fading fast, including mangroves and seagrasses.
Unfortunately, we know very little about sexual reproduction in our seagrasses.
But restoring them is a race against time.
We could plant this pond with mangroves once, 10 times, 100 times, and they're not going to grow.
Can we save what protects us? Saving Our Green Lungs, Thursday on CNA.
Brought to you by OCBC.
This week on Singapore Hour. From forest bathing to bathing in sound, discover how Singaporeans are finding wellness in unexpected places.
It's chaos, cardio, and catharsis all rolled into one.
And the world-class chef making sustainable irresistible.
People are resistant to change. I aim to convince them that it's not that difficult.
All this and more on Singapore Hour, Friday on CNA.
Hello again. You are watching East Asia Tonight, and just in time for a business news update with none other than Olivia Mazuki. So, Olivia, today, I believe there's been a shakeup in China's rural banks, and we know Beijing is trying hard to contain debt risks. Tell us more.
Yes, so I'll tell you, basically, smaller lenders are being folded into bigger players as local government debt starts to pile up. China is reportedly expanding its consolidation of small and mid-sized financial institutions that were at risk by lending too much for public investments. The mergers are expected to create economies of scale to help stabilize surviving institutions and reduce financial risks. Now, most institutions that were consolidated included agricultural lenders and village banks. They make up about 80% of China's financial institutions, and the authorities said that there are more than 4,000 financial institutions in the country, with the figure falling by 5% in the first half of the year following the mergers. Now, regional banks have had management troubles, including misconduct involving local supervisory authorities, and the banks have a combined total of about $196.8 billion in non-performing loans, despite receiving public funds over the last 5 years. And this could balloon further if the country cannot turn its economy around. Plans are underway to consolidate more financial institutions in other regions as an economic slump drags on, along with population outflows from rural areas. South Korea's central bank chief says a trade deal with the U.S. has substantially reduced economic uncertainty for the country, but warns of a hit to exports in the second half. Bank of Korea Governor Ri Chang-yong says South Korea is ready for new tech thanks to early moves to adapt to global supply chain changes. And Mr. Ri also addressed concerns about the AI bubble, saying that the boom will continue no matter where the chips may fall. Now, public fears that Seoul's $350 billion investment pledge with the U.S. will hollow out domestic production have risen. Over the weekend, President Lee Jae-myung met with representatives from 4 of the country's largest conglomerates, which have pledged more than $500 billion in domestic investment over the next 5 years. And Japanese markets extending their declines amid a cocktail of fears over tech, government finances, and a widening dispute with China. The Nikkei 225 sank by the most in more than 7 months, ending the day more than 3% in the red. And the broader topics also sank nearly 3% by the closing bell. Now, tech shares, they're tracking Wall Street's sharp decline overnight, with investors cautious against chip giant Nvidia's quarterly results. And we're seeing red across the board for SoftBank shares, Tokyo Electron, as well as Advantest, more than 7% decline there for SoftBank. And a diplomatic spat between Japan and China, also a drag on tourism sector. Tokyo now warning its citizens about their safety in China. Beijing earlier told its citizens to avoid traveling to Japan. Japanese airline stocks extending yesterday's declines. We're talking about JAL and also ANA Holdings. They're all losing ground there. Japanese Finance Minister Satsuki Katayama also coming out to say that the government is closely watching movements of the yen after it fell below the 155 mark against the greenback and 180 against the euro, its lowest level since the euro was introduced. The selling concern of yen comes over the concerns over Prime Minister Takaichi's stimulus plans. And earlier on CNA, Mitsuo Kotecha of Barclays spoke about the likelihood of government intervention in propping up the yen as the currency continues to lose ground.
Well, look, there has definitely been more verbal intervention from Japanese officials, and these comments that you refer to are adding to that. It still seems unlikely at this point we see actual intervention unless we do see a more rapid move higher in dollar yen. And look, we've been sort of around this sort of 155, pivoting around this level for some time. You know, if we see a sudden move higher towards a topper, closer towards 158, 160, there's that risk of actual intervention. But at this point in time, it seems like more jawboning than anything else. And that is also tempering the move in dollar yen. So there is concern. But look, volatility hasn't picked up that much. We don't think we're at that point yet where Japanese officials are at the point of pulling the trigger to actual intervention. So I think at the moment it's more sending a warning shot to the market.
Let's talk about Bitcoin. It has taken a steep tumble, erasing all of its gains for 2025, despite strong support from Wall Street and favorable political momentum. And this comes as weeks after the token surged past the $126,000 mark. It is now hovering at 91,000 level. According to data provider CoinGecko, the risk-sensitive cryptocurrency is down nearly 30% from its October's peak, losing about $600 billion in market value. Now, the cryptocurrency market in total has lost about $1.2 trillion from combined capitalization. Analysts say that the sell-off appears to be driven by growing fears that a post-halving price crash could be looming. So historically, Bitcoin 4-year halving cycle tends to see a powerful rally in the year after the event, followed by deep corrections. And the last time Bitcoin halved happened in 2024. In addition, a combination of doubts around future U.S. interest rate cuts and the mood in broader markets also dragging down cryptocurrency. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund will soon launch a $1 billion fund to support the expansion of Hong Kong and Greater Bay Area companies into Saudi Arabia. This is designed to help contribute to the development of non-oil economic sectors in the kingdom. A roadshow will be held in Hong Kong next month to seek strategic partnership and professional service providers for Saudi's infrastructure development. And Amazon has joined the wave of big tech firms turning to bond markets in order to raise funds for the buildup of AI infrastructure. The e-commerce giant has reportedly raised about $15 billion from its first US dollar bond offering in 3 years. The proceeds will be used for everything from acquisitions to capital expenditures and share buybacks. Amazon's offering comes after Meta Platforms' issuance of $30 billion of corporate bonds last month and Google parent Alphabet selling $25 billion debt in the US and Europe earlier this month. And this is serious business. You've heard this song before. You probably even know the dance moves. Yep, Baby Shark by Pinkfong has been played more than 16 billion times since its debut in 2016. That's almost 5 million times a day. So the company generated about $67 million in revenue last year, including earnings from YouTube. But it looks like it's hamstrung by YouTube restrictions on made-for-kids content. Boston University says Pinkfong would have been able to generate 2 to 3 times more revenue if it wasn't restricted for some practices for content for kids, like personalized ads or subscriber notifications. So checking on its trade and its maiden trade in South Korea, it surged 60% above its initial IPO price of 38,000 won a piece before paring back some of those gains at the closing bell. And proceeds from this IPO, the company says it would help Pinkfong create new content since it's looking to produce 3 new titles by 2028. So I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to more Pinkfong songs other than Baby Shark.
Yeah, that's true. Although I'm not sure about Baby Shark, but thanks so very much for your business report, Olivia. Well, on that note, we are going to zip out for a short break now, but coming up next on East Asia Tonight, the spat between China and Japan deepens. An expert will be joining us for more insight into what's behind this latest row.
Think you can build
the fastest drones
or the smartest robot?
Prove it right now in CNA's first ever tech game show where innovation meets imagination.
Work in teams.
Think big.
And apply now.
Before it's too late.
Too late. She thinks it's a kite. I think you're better apply.
Innovation partner.
The first thing in the morning as Asia wakes up to a new day. Get up to speed with major events shaping lives in the region and other parts of the world.
Putting things in perspective with eye-opening reports and expert analysis as a new era of global politics breeds power struggles and shifting alliances.
We get to the heart of the matter and take stock of the issues you're invested in with on-the-ground reports and wall-to-wall coverage. Viewing it all from a regional lens because we put Asia first.
Hello there, this is East Asia Tonight, and here are the headlines we're following. Chinese ships are accused of jamming communications as Philippine forces deliver supplies to a South China Sea outpost in the latest flashpoint to emerge in the contested waters. Seoul says it has no hostile intent toward Pyongyang as North Korea warns of countermeasures over a new U.S.-South Korea pact. China lodging strong objections with Japan over Taiwan remarks by Japanese leader Sanae Takaichi during talks between top officials in Beijing as the countries square off in a diplomatic row. And for more insights into this spat, we now bring in Giulio Pugliese. He's director of the EU-Asia project at the European University Institute. Well, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Now, let's just start with the latest consultation between Japan and China. It happened at the Director General level, not quite ministerial. So what do we read into this? I mean, does it show that the issue isn't important enough for top-level diplomacy?
Yes, definitely. Japan relies a lot on
the Chinese economy for growth. For instance, in terms of tourism, and China has given ample proof that it can leverage moral suasion vis-a-vis Chinese tourists and students in visiting Japan, and hence the Japanese Business Federation and Confederation of Businesses around tourism in particular have tried to persuade the Takaichi government to quieten things down. And so there is an emphasis now on trying to find a way for Japan-China relations to resume. But the problem is that effectively the Chinese government is asking for a retraction of Prime Minister Takaichi's remarks during a diet interpellation, because these remarks will constitute policy to all effects. And it is very unlikely that the Prime Minister will retract those remarks. So hopefully there will be a face-saving solution devised by the two governments to put Japan-China relations back into a steady orbit of stability.
So, I mean, Beijing's messaging has been sharp. I mean, the foreign ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning, basically once again said that Japan, you are to withdraw your wrongful remarks, stop creating trouble, all those sharp words. This message, I mean, is it specifically aimed at Ms. Takaichi, you know, given her hardline views and also her ties to the late Shinzo Abe?
Yes, I think that this message is related to the very Takaichi government, which relies on support from the right-wing Isshin no Kai, the Japan Restoration Party. And so this means effectively that they are trying to put on a corner what they understand as a government that will be very focused on bolstering relations with Taiwan and on increasing the security profile of Japan even further. Will they be successful? Well, it is possible that they might be, because the Takaichi government is wobbling. It relies on external support from the Japan Restoration Party. That's the literal translation of Isshin no Kai. And they still rely also on external support to pass important bills, including from, the opposition potentially, because the LDP with the Restoration Party do not have a majority in both houses of the Japanese Diet. And on top of that, there is circumstantial evidence that suggests that US-China relations at the summit level, and so at the White House level in the United States of America, are actually in a positive track, meaning that there might be also conversations specific to Taiwan. And this suggests that the US government at the White House level is less interested in backing up Japan to the fullest in the interest of holding Trump's summit state visit in Beijing next year.
Right. So, aside from their sharp words, I mean, they've actually taken pointed steps. I mean, Beijing, I'm talking about, China decided to suspend, the Japanese film releases. They're discouraging travelers and study in Japan, for instance. I mean, these moves, Julia, how effective are they? And who's likely going to feel the heat first?
These are opening salvos, and it is possible, as Japan's economic security minister and the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry have hinted at, but there might be more in the coming days, because there is evidence that this has been a decision at the very top of the Chinese system to corner Japan. And so the conversations at the Director General level of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials in Beijing are also aimed at stopping the situation from getting worse. In all likelihood, Japan will feel the pain the most. precisely because the Japanese economy relies on the Chinese economy more than vice versa. And again, it's part and parcel of the very calculations in Beijing that they want to corner the Takaichi government and censor it. And it's better to do it at the get-go, because potentially there is the possibility to either make the government fall or to actually make it backtrack and actually lower its profile on the security agenda, because the Takaichi government, and it's really part of the prime minister's credo, personal credo, has really pushed on the accelerator from the get-go with regards to Japan's
but Julia, the fact is that China and Japan, right, they have weathered crises before. I mean, it's not quite new, but at the same time, it feels that this is somewhat different this time around. I mean, is this a brand new flashpoint we're seeing here, or is it like a sort of unfinished business from the past?
I think this is new territory, because the remarks made during the Diet interpellation on November 7th by the Prime Minister have actually been rather important. Japan hinted, the government of Japan hinted through proxies, meaning the former Prime Minister Abe, former Deputy Prime Minister Aso, and heavyweight politicians, it has hinted at the fact that a Taiwan contingency is a Japan contingency. And the legislation that dates back to 2015 hinted at the fact that Japan would intervene in a Taiwan crisis scenario. What the Prime Minister has done is that it has made abundantly clear that Japan would intervene. And this is an important development in Japan-China relations, because it suggests also the potential that Japan considers Taiwan a country in a crisis scenario. There is an embedded understanding that Japan might recognize Taiwan in a crisis scenario, and that is a message of deterrence vis-à-vis China. And this, in Japan-China relations, is a big development, and China wants to chastise Japan and punish Japan, the government of Japan, because it's hinting at an embryonic one China, one Taiwan policy. And so, in my understanding, this is not an easy issue to solve.
And we'll certainly be looking out for more developments along the road. As you have mentioned, we are running out of time, but thank you so very much for your time and thoughts. Some valuable insights there. Giulio Pugliese, Director of the EU Asia Project at the European University Institute. Singapore says that working more closely with China will mean both countries can jointly safeguard regional peace and stability amid global power rivalries. Now, Singapore's Coordinating Minister for Public Services, Chan Chun Sing, says that the nations have chosen cooperation over confrontation and inclusion over isolation. He was speaking at the 10th edition of a leadership forum aimed at tackling today's governance challenges in both countries.
The trust built up over the years is not superficial. It has been built project by project, through crisis by crisis, but most importantly, by person. Like the roots of a great tree, it provides us with the stability to weather storms. It is this leadership-driven mutual trust that has kept our relations steady, a true anchor of stability in the region and beyond.
Well, the Communist Party of China's Shi Taifeng says that despite the global instability, the world will continue to advance and build community with a shared future. He adds that times of change also present opportunities. The Central Committee Organization Department Minister was addressing the forum online from Beijing.
越过激流险滩，穿过惊涛骇浪，需要我们与时俱进，加强领导力建设，风雨同舟，和衷共济，推动建设更加美好的世界。
Well, at the same time, Singapore Digital Development and Information Minister Josephine Teo says that leadership is crucial in overcoming similar challenges of success by both sides. And these include rising social expectations, aging populations, and preserving cohesion. Mr. Teo says that both countries can share ways to ensure that their societies remain united and at the same time work towards cooperation at all levels. The two countries can also work together to invest in leadership development and uphold integrity in governance. Her Chinese counterpart also agrees that building trust with its people is one of the key pillars of leadership.
It is about building capability, earning and keeping trust, and co-creating solutions that leave no one behind. Our societies face similar pressures: aging populations, declining fertility, youth aspirations, and shifting global tides. But we also share enduring strengths: strong governance, pragmatic adaptability, and a belief in the power of partnership.
赢得对我们的信任，才能坚定就是听党话能够跟党走也就是这个能够引领他们、带领他们就是迈进就是新的征程。所以今后我们将进一步坚定打攻坚战、持久战的坚决心和恒心，持续推进作风建设常态化、长效化。 推动画风成熟，海晏和亲。
Coming up next on East Asia Tonight. Japan deploys a special type of drone in a bid to keep bears at bay as attacks in parts of the country are going up.
Obsession is a combination of the words hobby and obsession. I'm Janice Young, and I'm a doll artist.
An innate passion for that particular hobby. I have 800 over pieces in my collection.
Complex origami takes 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours even. It has been a part of my life. It is part of my DNA.
这个想法其实也是就是粉丝给予我的，他们一直在说，其实可以做一个猫咪的世界。
私は第二次世界大戦の沈没船や沈んでいる飛行機を見るために潜る場所を調べた時に沖縄にエモンズというポイントがあって。
I'm a collector of military memorabilia in Singapore. I would have spent more than $250,000 from then to now, and it's still counting.
特别当一些客人进入到家里的时候，我们会拿这个咖啡作为一个很高级的一个饮料去款待他。
The coffee market is really a good proxy to understand the changes of the Chinese economy and Chinese society.
我们会把这个行业卷起来。
From instant brews to cafe culture, tracing coffee's rise in China. Wednesday on CNA.
The hypothesis that I have is that with increased interaction with people with disabilities, society's stigma towards them would be reduced.
Hello, the disability community is part of the Singapore story.
Extraordinary People 2, Saturday on CNA.
With the UN-led climate talks underway in Brazil, the focus is not only on cleaner energy and greener cities, but also on the hidden environmental cost of our digital lives. Behind every swipe, stream, and AI query is a growing carbon footprint. Now, tech experts say that part of that solution may lie in the way we write the software itself. Well, CNA's Ilakia Selvaji explains.
Every click, every search, every AI request may seem small, but it all adds up, consuming electricity and generating carbon emissions.
From the apps we use to the server storing our data, the digital world is leaving a growing environmental footprint. Developers are exploring ways to reduce this impact through something known as green coding.
On the most basic level, we're thinking of how much data we consume by our software that we produce, by our websites, by our mobile applications, and then being able to very reliably connect that to a singular server, using a power meter to measure how much energy is being drawn, and then looking at where you buy your energy from. From the individual level, we're thinking of how can we write less code where possible. I think reduction is always up there, number one, right? Sometimes we overcomplicate things, and that's really not necessary. On a corporate level, it's also, when you think of green coding, how can we institutionalize this as a best practice? Because corporates institutionalize things like redundancy, cyber safety, but not ESG principles in coding yet.
Green coding isn't just a technical trend. It needs to be embedded into how companies develop software. Just as businesses follow rules for cybersecurity or system backups, experts say environmental responsibility should become a standard practice in software development.
If they have a legacy system, then there are some challenges here, which could be daunting and expensive here, because to retrain the entire model fully is a very expensive task. At the same time, there are some methodologies which, if we talk on the lines of green coding, so post the training, they can do something called pruning. Only a specific part or specific parameters of the model need to be retrained, so that in this case, the efficiency goes up.
A lot of these players that, well, have data centers as well, thrive off greater data usage. So if you use more data, it is more likely for them to get higher revenue, higher profit as a result. So, well, it may not be in the interest to tell you, hey, you're using excessive data, or you should cut down on data usage.
Governments and regulators are stepping in as well. Singapore and the EU are drafting sustainability standards for digital services, while researchers push for an AI carbon registry to track the environmental cost of algorithms.
You hear about digital transformation as the driving force, very much like how it was in Singapore 10, 20 years ago. So with rapid digital transformation across all areas, there is the chance to either get it right or to get it very wrong. And this is a term we call sustainable digital transformation, whereby when we transform digitally, can we write the base layer of code using low carbon computer code and ensure that in the years that come by, we're using a green foundational base? Or are we going to go the ways of the past, whereby we did things, well, not as green, and we're paying the price right now?
South Korea has pledged to phase out its coal power plants. Seoul making the announcement at the COP30 summit in Brazil, adding that it will be joining the Powering Past Coal Alliance, or PPCA. The move is being regarded as ambitious from a country that generates a third of its electricity from fossil fuel. Well, South Korea's climate minister Kim Song-hwan says that the long-term goal is to establish a decarbonized green society where renewable energy makes up a large part of its power mix. The pledge does not give a date for an end to all of South Korea's unabated coal use, but it does mark the first official government commitment to stop building new coal plants and phase out existing ones. The PPCA adds that out of the current 61 plants, South Korea will phase out 40 of these by 2040. Seoul says that the pledge highlights its commitment to accelerating a clean energy transition and will create thousands of jobs. South Korea currently manages the world's 7th largest coal fleet and is the 4th biggest coal importer. And for more of our coverage on COP30, do log on to cna.asia or our mobile app for commentaries such as this one on why Asia can't afford to wait for others to step up as climate leaders. Now, one prefecture in Japan has come up with a high-tech solution to tackle the problem of bear attacks. Now, this device is on trial in central Japan's Hida city to stop bears from ransacking apples and peaches at an orchard. Developers call it the hunting drone, and it doesn't just bark like a dog. Look at that. It can also shoot firecrackers from launchers bolted onto its wings. Officials say bear sightings in Hida City have increased almost 8-fold this autumn compared to last year.
そうやね、やっぱ遭遇はしたくないし、遭遇した場合にやっぱ自分も何度かはありますが、睨みつけてっていうふうにはしますけども、やっぱなかなか怖いですよ、実際に見れば。
A record 220 people have been hurt by bears across Japan in the year since April. Many attacks are taking place in far-flung towns. A recent bear cub attack on a tourist in Shirakawa-go, a UNESCO-listed village about an hour's drive from Hida, has made bear deterrence a top priority for the local government. A tourist escaped with minor injuries, but the site is now dotted with bear warning signs. Authorities are also asking visitors to walk in groups, wear bear bells, and avoid certain areas after dark.
我在小红书上看到有很多日本报道说有熊出没，好像因为今年的收成不太好，所以熊要下来找东西吃。然后呢，所以我们就准备了2个熊铃。
Now, we're just over an hour away from the winner-takes-all football showdown between Hong Kong and Singapore. The winner tonight will earn the right to play among the continent's best at the 2027 Asian Cup in Saudi Arabia. And Aslam Shah is lucky enough to be standing by at Hong Kong's Kai Tak Stadium, and he's here to tell us more. So, Aslam, first up, what is the mood like on the ground, and what is at stake tonight?
Oh, Telly, the tension is building up, but also the excitement. Fans are just streaming into the stadium. This state-of-the-art facility at Kai Tak Sports Park. You know, in just moments from now, we will see the players coming in for their pre-match warm-up. And, you know, there's plenty of excitement here. Over 40,000 fans are expected, including about 2,000 Singapore fans. And I'm just looking at the away stands right now. It seems that there are Hong Kong fans in Hong Kong jerseys filling up the away stands as well. So plenty to look forward to, plenty of rivalry, plenty of tension expected today on the pitch. And speaking about the pitch, you know, there were some concerns about the condition of the pitch. There are patches of scruffed up areas. It was discussed in the pre-match press conference last night, but the players were telling the media that basically, you know, they can't control the condition of the pitch, you know, and they will just have to get on with it. Just to remind you as well that this arena as well there are other sports being played, including rugby, and also it's also a venue for entertainment as well. Now, speaking about the pre-match press conference, interim head coach Gavin Lee has said that the 26-man squad that they have for this window, all of them are fit and raring to go. For Hong Kong, coach Ashley Westwood talked about how they are missing a couple of players through injuries and suspensions. But overall, you know, the training camp has been good and preparations was as good as it can get. So both teams are really raring to go, Otelli.
Awesome. There's plenty to look forward to. But what happens if there is no winner?
Well, if there is a winner, you know, it's very clear. The winner goes to the Asian Cup. That they earn the right to play among the best teams in Asia. And, you know, regardless of the final match day, which will take place in March next year. Now, if it is a draw, it will get a bit complicated. These fans who are excited to come today, away fans who are here to witness history, you know, they will have to hold their breath for another 4 over months because the final match day is at the end of March, where Singapore will host Bangladesh and Hong Kong will go away to India. So what will have to happen is that Singapore will have to better the result of Hong Kong, whatever Hong Kong's results is. So, for example, if Hong Kong wins 2-0 against India, Singapore will have to win 3-0 against Bangladesh. Now, for Hong Kong, you know, they just have to match Singapore's results and they will go to the Asian Cup. So, plenty is at stake tonight, you know, but if there is no winner, it will go to the final match day.
All right, may the best team win. I'm going to leave you to find a seat and watch the game properly. Thank you so much, Aslam Shah, reporting from Hong Kong. And of course, you can catch the Asian Cup qualifier between Hong Kong and Singapore from 8 p.m. Hong Kong time, live on Channel 5 and Me Watch. And that does it for this Tuesday's edition of East Asia Tonight. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget your headlines anytime at cna.asia. Thanks for watching.